I think we're just collateral damage because if you look at the US beef industry, they're the largest in the world.
Absorbed a devastating blow when $5 billion in orders vanished. This gut punch hit American ranchers hard as Asian ports stamped return to sender on entire shipments of U.S. beef and pork. During that same week, Canadian meat packers quietly secured a massive contract of nearly equal value. With their maple leaf logo now prominently displayed on restaurant menus from Tokyo's upscale Ginza district to Seoul's vibrant Gangnam. The fallout in the U.S. was swift and severe, with ground beef prices surging $1.90 per tray, bacon nearing $10 a pound, and grocers warning of an additional 15% price hike before Labor Day. How did Washington's trade strategy misfire so spectacularly that Canada, not Texas, is now feeding half the Pacific Rim? What does this mean for your next backyard barbecue? Tonight, we'll trace every rejected steak, uncover the hidden choke points in the supply chain, and reveal how a single policy decision could cripple a $200 billion agricultural economy. Stay tuned, because the final question might force you to rethink your grocery list. Is America still in control of its own dinner plate? The shift began on March 27, 2023, when Tokyo lifted a 20-year ban on Canadian processed beef, opening a $518 million market for Asia's wealthiest diners. 2 years later, Statistics Canada reported a 13.1% surge in meat exports to Japan in May 2025, confirming this market has become a steady pipeline. Tokyo's decision made headlines across Asian business pages, prompting steakhouses from Osaka to Okinawa to swap out U.S. prime cuts for maple leaf branding overnight. This pipeline is fueled by turmoil south of the 49th parallel. In April, Beijing imposed a new 125% tariff on U.S. beef, leading major barbecue chains in China's capital to replace Texas brisket with more affordable Canadian cuts. Containers once marked Nebraska choice now return half empty, while Asian warehouses overflow with Canada's red and white packaging. Industry insiders warn that if Beijing allows hundreds of U.S. plant licenses to expire this summer, the backlog could escalate into a full-blown supply crisis. Meanwhile, Manitoba's hog and cattle farmers, viewing the U.S. as an unreliable buyer, are signing new deals with South Korea and the Philippines before Washington's next trade move lands. Reuters reports that some farms are installing on-site refrigeration to ship directly from Winnipeg, bypassing U.S. borders and avoiding looming fees. If this workaround persists, U.S. supermarkets may soon purchase Canadian-handled meat that once originated in Iowa, a clear sign that a single policy memo can reshape who feeds Asia. On March 5th, 2025, the U.S. Meat Export Federation reported that pork exports consumed 100.7 million bushels of domestic soybeans in 2024, injecting $1.12 billion into farm revenue. The same report highlighted that meat shipments added 59 cents to every bushel of corn sold last year, a critical boost that kept Midwest farmers afloat amid drought and rising fuel costs. However, this financial cushion is rapidly deflating. Since Beijing signaled on March 14, 2025, that licenses for nearly 1,000 U.S. meat plants could lapse, Asian buyers have flocked to Canadian suppliers, wary of sudden port rejections. Chicago traders warn that losing half of China's orders could slash soybean demand by 50 million bushels, wiping out the entire price boost from 2024. Corn would feel the ripple effect next, with a 59-cent drop potentially stripping $3 billion from the 2025 harvest based on current acreage estimates. This math raises alarms for Iowa co-ops already facing tighter credit. Meanwhile, Manitoba ranchers are securing advance contracts paid in Canadian dollars, locking in space on Asia-bound ships, deals U.S. feedlots once took for granted. If this shift solidifies before the first frost, American grain elevators could face a surplus of soy and corn by October, triggering a fire sale reminiscent of the 2018 tariff slump. Farmers describe it as a second blow following the supply chain collapse, all tied to meat shipments rejected at foreign ports. In essence, a policy intended to pressure competitors is now impacting the grains that power U.S. livestock, risking an unplanned surplus. Three key dates define this downward spiral. On March 27, 2025, USDA logs recorded just 54 metric tons of U.S. beef booked for China, a steep drop from over 2,000 tons weekly a month earlier, as Beijing let hundreds of U.S. plant licenses lapse overnight. This 97% collapse stunned Midwest packers, delivering a blunt message: find new markets or halt operations. Most couldn't, leading to overflowing freezers, soaring storage costs, and canceled slaughter shifts to curb losses. Shoppers felt the impact faster than any report could capture. By February 28, 2025, ground beef prices in U.S. cities had climbed 43% since early 2020, with a family that once spent $8 on taco night now paying nearly $12. The pinch is most acute in low-income areas, where beef and pork once stretched tight budgets the furthest. School lunch programs are switching to cheaper chicken, as the national cattle herd sits at a 74-year low due to drought-driven culls. Feedlots are sparse, replacement heifers are scarce, and even Tyson Foods reports losses while waiting for herds to recover, a process requiring 2 seasons, not 2 quarters. Canada is capitalizing on these numbers like a roadmap. Every ton China rejects becomes an opportunity north of the 49th parallel. Manitoba packers are running double shifts. Saskatchewan rail yards are stacking refrigerated containers, and Japanese buyers are paying premiums to secure next season's supply before Washington can respond. The longer U.S. licenses remain in limbo, the easier it is for Canada's maple leaf to become a staple on Asia's dinner tables. If Beijing extends the block in July, analysts predict the U.S. could lose another $1 billion in beef orders by year's end, cementing a trade shift that tariffs alone cannot reverse. The export crash is now hitting Main Street budgets. At its May 5, 2025 investor call, Tyson Foods reported an 8.2% rise in beef prices for the second quarter, prompting shoppers to flood toward cheaper chicken and tanking Tyson stock by 9% in a single day. This is the raw cost grocers must absorb or pass directly to consumers. Tyson executives admitted that soaring cattle costs are crushing margins, while shoppers shift to lower-cost chicken adds pressure to the company's recovery plan. The CEO described it as the toughest market ever, a statement Wall Street hasn't forgotten. Reuters notes the U.S. cattle herd is at its smallest since 1951, forcing feedlots to compete fiercely for every steer, driving up the consumer price index. Wholesale beef rose 10.1% year-over-year in May, the steepest climb among major proteins. Fast food chains from Dallas to Detroit are shrinking burger patties. Family grocers update price tags weekly, and school districts are swapping taco beef for chicken as budgets can't keep pace with invoices outrunning federal funding. Meanwhile, diners in Tokyo and Seoul enjoy Canada Prime steaks, securing supply once shipped from Seattle. Every pound Canada exports deepens the shortage on U.S. shelves. Analysts warn that if drought persists and tariffs remain, the fourth quarter roast could become a luxury, not a holiday staple. In short, Washington's trade strategy has become a grocery aisle tax, and the bill continues to climb. The grocery aisle strain is only the beginning. While U.S. officials debate trade policy, Ottawa is racing ahead, rewriting North America's meat trade playbook. On February 28, 2025, Reuters reported that 75% of Canadian beef typically flows south to the U.S., but prairie ranchers are downsizing herds instead of expanding, wary of Washington's looming 25% border tax threat. This retreat is deliberate, as producers refuse to invest in calves that could be locked out of their top market overnight. Ottawa responded on March 7, 2025, with a $6.5 billion Canadian relief package, including $1 billion for cold storage hubs and refrigerated rail lines to ship steaks directly to Asia, bypassing U.S. soil. Subsidized steel and extended freezer cars are already lining up in Saskatchewan rail yards, offering Japanese buyers a seamless option that avoids the U.S. border. Washington's response has been stark cost-cutting, with Tyson Foods announcing on December 2, 2024, the closure of a beef and pork plant in Emporia, Kansas, eliminating over 800 jobs, a clear sign that demand gaps are reducing shifts from 3 to 1 or none. Industry insiders warn that if China extends the license freeze past August, at least 4 more Midwest plants could shut before Thanksgiving. Iowa feedlots are rejecting new cattle, and Minnesota corn elevators are seeking overseas buyers to clear a looming grain surplus. The contrast is stark. Canada is building pipelines to capture U.S. orders, while America shutters slaughterhouses, hoping tariffs will reverse trade flows. Unless policy changes soon, Canada's maple leaf could dominate the Pacific Rim protein market, and U.S. ranchers may find their best calves priced out of both global and domestic markets. Picture this. Christmas lights glow, but meat counters like a single Made in USA label. This isn't exaggeration. It's the trajectory we've outlined. Canada seized Asia by acting swiftly, constructing larger freezers and branding a red and white logo the region trusts. Meanwhile, Washington entangled itself in bureaucracy, let logistics infrastructure deteriorate, and fired a tariff shot into its own foot. If Capitol Hill fails to untangle the supply chain and align safety standards before the next buying season, America's $200 billion protein empire could see a century of dominance melt away in a single fiscal year. One potential lifeline remains: a North America-Asia standards agreement to end the paperwork conflicts and move meat at Canada's pace. So, will the Stars and Stripes reclaim your Friday night steak? Or will the maple leaf continue to set the table? Share your predictions below. Your comment could shape next week's story.